is a true Jehovah Witness Halloween story, or better yet, a ghost story. And this story here is true, and from observations of what I've seen around me with the Jehovah Witnesses, with my spouse and, you know, her friends and stuff and family. And it's unfortunate that the JWs have that stereotype of being door knockers, and the other one is not celebrating holidays and events and, you know, things like that. I think the only thing that they adhere to is marriage anniversaries and the memorial. Everything else is pretty much scrapped out. But, you know, when the general public ever thinks about a Jehovah Witness, those are the only two items that pops up, which is unfortunate because I know it's not by design, but I think it's a distracting sort of subject to distract the normal public or the regular public, worldly people, away from JW doctrine. So the first thing that comes up is the budding jokes that everybody knows about when it comes to JWs. You don't celebrate Christmas, and the stories about them knocking on your door early Saturday morning. And that's pretty much the extent of the worldly people out there interaction with JWs, is in those two categories there, especially if you have kids. And I know the teachers and stuff are somewhat put on notice or semi-indoctrinated into, hey, my kid will not do this, that, or whatever. But for this particular occasion, since it's Halloween today, I believe, this is a true ghost story that I've observed with my family, my JW part of the family, the in-laws, and my wife. The Jehovah Witness, as a doctrine, or their dogma, has an influence or emphasis on demons. I mean, there's demons all around, and they're out to trip you up in your path of the paradise or whatever. And with a lot of other religions, you know, it's more so, you know, what's going to trip you up is personal sin that you've committed to do that stuff, to get you booted out or whatever. But the Jehovah Witnesses, they have an emphasis on demons and Satan doing it, you know, to you personally. And as part of their teachings and stuff, like I said, they have an emphasis on demons. There's demons all around you, just waiting to you know, sucker punch you on your way to paradise. They believe in ghosts, and the ghosts are just demons out there to get you. I personally, out of all the meetings that I've attended, have not heard a ghost story being sort of sermoned or preached on the podium there. Or, you know, I haven't seen any stories like that, but it's got to be there in their doctrine, where almost the majority of them believe in that doctrine and are deathly scared of demons being haunted by them and being attacked by them or whatnot. True story. It's a little known fact, but it's there among worldly people. For instance, true story here. My in-laws, I've heard stories that they were looking for houses in a particular area, and they're interacting with a real estate agent, and they go into a house and look at it and everything, and it seems to be what they're looking for. They're really interested, and I guess a neighbor or somehow the story got out that house has weird things go on at night, or possibly a ghost in there or something. The in-laws confronted the real estate agent and confronted her and said, why didn't you tell us that this place was haunted? So they walked away from it. They just got away from that as far as they can and never went back. So that's sort of an influence from their dogma that prevented them from buying a house that could potentially be okay for them. Personally, I don't believe in ghosts. I have to make a correction. I did hear ghost stories from the Jehovah Witnesses. Not in a sermon sort of format, but more of a testimonial from their members, their rank and file. And it's always in the district conventions or the regional conventions that they hold every year. And for those of you who are not JWs, it's pretty much the Super Bowl retreat for JWs. That's the big highlight of the year for them. And it's 3 days of indoctrination and propaganda, in my opinion. But that's where you hear the ghost stories. You see, in one part of the program, they'll bring up rank and file JWs up to the podium, and they'll give their testimonials about being a JW, whether it be, talking about denying a job because it interferes with their JW activities, or not accepting blood, and stories like that, and coming from being a drug addict to being an upstanding citizen of the JW community, things like that. But once in a while, you'll hear a ghost story. One of the members will be up there and say that they brought something in a swap meet or yard sale. They brought that item home and it was haunted and the demons were after him or something like that. And I do go to the conventions for childcare for my kids. I would have to admit some of the programming on the conventions is somewhat entertaining. And that's one of the highlights for me personally, is hearing a good ghost story. Unfortunately, this year there wasn't one. I guess they had their hands full with the keeping you guys loyal, or the JWs loyal, and no ghost stories were told in this particular year, unless it's a regional thing and maybe there wasn't somebody around to give a good ghost story. But anyway, a person will come up and say that, they were haunted by demons, and how they prayed and it went away, or they moved out of their house, or something to that effect. And for a skeptic like me to sit there and listen to that, first of all, it was entertaining, but second of all, or the biggest point of this particular story is that was somewhat of a red flag to me, saying, what is going on with this religion? I actually had this conversation with my wife. This is before I sort of, woken up that this religion isn't what it's all that cracked up to be, or it's harmful to people. I was always bring out these points, that sounds crazy to me, and I told him, so with that ghost story, why is your faith so weak that you can't overcome that particular? Is your faith so weak that you have to run away all the time and not confront these demons and sort of put an ass whooping to them? Personally, that's where I'm coming from. And ask your particular deity to help you out in ganging up on this demon and get him, ousted. Now, I'm not saying an exorcism or something like that, but, the power of prayer and maybe getting more members involved to sort of, gang up on this particular ghost or demon and cast him out, and, something like that. I thought, deities could overcome all evil, and that's one evil that could be, sort of diminished. But no, seems like the one thing, or the one reoccurring theme of JWs is they run away from everything. They run away from... So the third story, and this hits home with me, is my wife. She has a dream or goal of having a store, a shop, selling, let's say, baskets. I'm just throwing that out as an example. And she got in on this particular building, or this this particular location that has a whole bunch of little shops, or kind of like a flea market within the building in a way, where there's little booths and each little booth is somebody's business. My wife had one of that, and it was perfect because she could run that little business selling baskets, and also, part-time, and do all her other activities, being, a mom to our kids, and, taking them to school and whatnot, and things that she could do on her spare time, running this business, and importantly, learn how to run a business. And I was learning a little bit too, as far as, record keeping and the tax laws and all that stuff. So I was helping her out with that. So this particular storefront was in downtown, and it had a lot of foot traffic, and it was a perfect place for her. And if she applied herself a little bit, she could really be successful to have a little bit of spending money on her own and do her thing, and realize her dream of having a little shop where it's a social, mechanism for her, and she makes a little bit of money, and she could interact with people. And she talked about this ever since we met. And it became a reality. And I was so proud of her. And she was gung-ho about it and everything. But there was this one particular time that I went with her to the shop to help her out. I'm the manual labor, lugging all these baskets around and stuff, which is, happy to do. But we go to the shop one day, and she has to be in the shop to run the cash register like twice a month for a day, which is no big deal. And this one particular day, I went over just to hang out for lunch or to have some coffee or whatever. And we're there, and she was with one of her co-workers, another shopkeeper there. So we're all talking and everything, and having a conversation. And this other person, mind you, this building is a historic building, and it's very old, from the 1800s or so. So this other person was stating that, let's see if, what's her name starts playing around with us. And we're like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh yeah, don't you know there's a resident ghost here that sometimes, pushes things over, and sometimes she's angry, and you can hear, things being, thrown across the room upstairs, and little, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up sometimes when you think you're being watched, and, the little subtle things that ghosts do, I guess, to mess with people. And he was serious. He was totally serious about this. And he mentioned that other people had experiences too and everything. So me knowing how the JWs take or stand on ghosts is, I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, oh no, this guy is going to derail my wife's dream of having a shop. And my wife is listening to this, and she's asking questions, but not in like, oh, what do you see? What did you do? What this and that, like some other people would do. She was, okay as far as conversation with this other person. But then when we got back home and everything, she came up to me and she said, I think I have to close down the business because of this, because I can't be there. And I was like, well, you didn't experience anything. I mean, ghosts don't exist. I mean, that's just a, coincidence, which I think or believe. But still, that one story or any hint or speculation of a ghost being in a particular area, that was enough for her to drop everything and move out of there. And not only that, she consulted with her dad, which is a hardcore JW member. And the dad was like, get out of there. Just close up and leave. And my wife, she packed up all her stuff, and we moved out of there. and she closed up shop. I was very disappointed because I know that would make my wife kind of disappointed as well, because she was in a good location, she was making a little bit of money, and she was enjoying what she was doing. She was realizing her dream, and her dream was shot down by JW's silly doctrine of ghosts or demons. So this ghost story that I've just mentioned is particularly horrific in the sense that it is true. Not that, the events and the background of ghosts and demons and doctrine, in a sense that a person's dream has been snuffed out by Jehovah Witness doctrine. And I think that is horrific in a sense that people are enslaved in this particular situation because of doctrine, and not because of personal perseverance of obstacles out there, whether it be ghost or science and things like that. Don't know really how to put this in words, but here is a dream snuffed out by the Jehovah Witness Society or the organization. Yes, she could relocate and do her business somewhere else, but that is not the point. She didn't need to do what she did to get out of this particular situation here, as far as the building being supposedly haunted. So there's your Jehovah Witness ghost story. The story here, the analogy, leads to, a particular predicament that is true and real to everyday people that are enslaved by this organization, and they do not know it. Happy Halloween.